Okay, once again, good afternoon, class. Good afternoon, BSA 21. And today we're going to discuss financial planning and budgets. Sometimes they call it master budget. Ito yung discussion on master budget. Okay, so let us first define or elaborate kung ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng financial planning. So when you say financial planning, we try to analyze the investment and financing alternatives available to a firm. So with all the projects that we have or that the firm has in their mind or yung management has in their mind, ano-ano ba yung mga projects na to? And of course, financing alternatives, how do they finance? Through ano ba? Through debt, through a loan, through issuance of stocks? Pwede ba na galing din sa retained earnings yung magiging source ng financing nito mga projects na yan? So with all those things, the investment opportunities, the projects and financing alternatives, later on they will come up with this forecasting yung mga future consequences of those items. So lahat ng pros and cons ng mga investments or lahat din ng pros and cons ng mga financing alternatives, yung sources of funds. So they are going to weigh alin ba dito yung mga dapat natin talaga na magpiliin na alternative. Okay? So we have separate topics on that, yung sa mga sources of financing, yung mga cost of capital, that is with financial management. But at this point, gusto lang natin linawin that the financial planning that we are referring here ay yung mga short term lang. So yung sa ibang mga investments na to, there might be investments na long term pero nagiging part lang siya ng short term kapag eto na or malapit na mangyari yung mga cash outlay natin because the investment will start na yung mga ganung bagay. But definitely, yung mga topic po natin for this day would be referring po doon sa mga short term lang na mga plans. So usually mga 1 year or less. It could be for the quarter, it could be for the semi-annual or half of the year, or it could be monthly na mga plans lang. Okay? So with all those plans in mind, what are the future consequences of the alternatives? Kasi in planning, we do make decisions. So with all those alternatives, how do we choose which one to implement? Oops. So yun yung number 3, deciding which alternatives to undertake. And also, we measure subsequent performance. So ito yung pinili mo i-implement na project or ito yung pinili mo na financing alternative. So we measure the subsequent performance against the established goal. So parang variance analysis uli ang nangyayari dito. We compare the actual versus the plan that we had set up. Okay, so here is the financial planning model. We have the IPO, inputs, your process, and then your output. So ano bang input natin sa isang financial planning na process? Kapag gumagawa ka ng plano, you have to consider una yung mga current na financial statements mo. Okay? O kaya yung mga previous years na mga financial statements. Kasi from those financial statements, we could come up with our prediction in the future. Pero along with the financial statements, dapat i-consider mo rin yung mga assumptions about the future conditions, especially na ngayong pandemic, 'di ba? Ano kaya ang impact ng COVID-19 pandemic sa magiging financial statements natin in the future? Hindi pwede na ang pagbabasihan mo lang ay yung mga financial statements kasi yung mga yung mga ibang data, possible na wala pa naman kasing masyadong impact yung pandemic doon. Pero this time, fully yung for 2020, sobrang laki ng impact na ng COVID-19 para sa performance niya ng 2020. So, kailangan isama natin yun sa inputs natin so that during our planning process, mas madali natin magagawa or mas na-consider natin lahat ng factors in coming up with our projected financial statements. Okay, yung mga pro forma. So for the next quarter or for the next half of the year or for the entire year. Okay? So we also come up with the operational and po yan, and financial budgets. So mamaya pag-usapan natin ano ba yung operational budget or financial budgets. But I think you have an idea on this because of your other subjects like financial management. Okay? And we have the scenario analysis. Meron tayong worst case and best case scenario na syempre, what if affected pa rin in 2022, 2023 and so on, affected pa rin ng COVID or ng pandemic yung yung ating operations. So most likely baka mababa, instead of 1,000 units ang mabenta natin, baka mga 700 units lang, yung mga ganun. Meron din tayong best case scenario just in case na ma-lift na yung or mawala na yung effect ng pandemic, baka naman mag-shoot up na uli yung sales natin. So, yung output natin may mga ganun, hindi lang siya isang set lang ng financial statements or isang set lang ng budget, meron tayong scenario analysis. So yan, ang financial planning process po, usually, we start with the sales forecast. Pero the entire financial planning process would really be based on the strategic planning that the company is doing. I mean, the budget, bago makakame up ng budget, meron munang strategic planning na nagaganap. In the strategic planning, doon pa po nagsaset ng mga goals and objectives ang company. And then from there, saka sila nagde-develop nitong mga sunod-sunod na i-mention natin. And normally, the first budget na nagagawa natin is the sales budget. But it's quite different with the sales forecast. Sales budget versus the sales forecast. Oops, nawala ng D. Ayan. Ano difference ng dalawa? Ang sales forecast involves yung mga external factors. Ang sales budget, ito na yung share natin in the sales forecast. Ang sinasabi natin dito, for example, in the industry, si Jollibee, si McDonald's, si KFC. So, ang sales forecast natin could involve the external environment. Tinitingnan mo, for the entire industry, magkano kaya yung total sales? Tapos, 40% siguro nun kay Jollibee, no? Tapos, yung kung magkano man entire sales na yan, that 40% would be the basis of coming up with your sales budget. Kumbaga, pag lumabas sa exam siguro, makikita ang clue natin dito, ang difference silang dalawa talaga is the external factors considered kapag sales forecast yung pinag-uusapan. Okay? So after after that, we develop the production schedule. From the sales that we have, gaano karami yung produce natin so that it will support yung sales budget na nakuha natin out of the sales forecast that we had. Okay? So sa production schedule na yan, dito tayo makaka-calculate ng production cost at saka ng cost of goods sold as well. We also estimate the other expenses and revenues. Kung mapapansin mo, parang income statement na yung tinatapos natin, no? Sales, cost of goods sold, other expenses, yung mga OPEX natin. And that's the time that we come up with the pro forma financial statements, beginning with the income statement. And then later on, we complete then yung ating mga balance sheet, cash flow. We complete also, kumbaga, lahat ng financial statements that we can come up with. Okay. Ang budget committee po ang nag-organize or nag-facilitate ng pagbuo ng master budget. So ano ba ginagawa ng budget committee? Headed by budget director or budget coordinator. Yan ang minsan tawag dun sa head ng budget committee. It depends on the company on how they want to call the head of the budget committee. O kaya naman, sometimes they just call it budget committee chair. And then with some co-chairs and members, parang sa government, ganun po ang ginagawa eh. So, ang role ng budget committee is to formulate and decide on general policies relating to the firm's budgetary system. So sila nagsasabi on how it will be accomplished yung budget ng isang organization. Kung ito ba ay magsosolicit from the bottom, I mean from the other from the employees na nasa rank and file, paakyat ba to sa middle management, paakyat ba ng top management, ganun ba? Or pwede ba na top management na lang magde-decide tas later on everything will be cascaded lang pababa. So depende po 'yan sa budget committee, no? So yung general policies on how they are going to accomplish the budget for the organization. And after that, they request, review, and revise kung sakaling meron man na kailangan i-revise yung individual budget estimates from the different segments of the organization. So, you had the responsibility accounting na last time, napanood nyo na, so may mga different segments ng organization. So, when they solicit the proposed budget from those segments, So sila yung nagre-review ng lahat ng 'yun. Kung sobra ba yung request, babawasan ba dapat o kaya kulang yung request, dadagdagan and so on. Okay? So they approve the budgets and subsequent revisions therein. Sila yung nag-approve nga. And they receive, evaluate, and analyze budget reports. Ang budget reports po uli, we compare yung budget versus the actual. Okay? We compare the budget versus the actual. And then after analyzing kung bakit may difference again yung budget at saka actual, that's the time that they recommend necessary actions to improve operational efficiency and effectiveness. Kasi syempre ang gusto natin mangyari, masunod yung plano and in other words, masunod yung budget. Dahil ang plano kapag kinonvert natin into quantitative terms ay nagiging budget. Oops, mali na naman ako sa spelling ng budget. Magiging budget. So, paano mo ma-rate yung mga performance ng department ng tao kung di mo naman nakikita araw-araw? So sometimes we just look at the budget reports. Here is the plan. Here is the budget. Paano mo malalaman na sumusunod sila? If they spend, if they perform within or very close to budget, ibig sabihin yun yung mga sumusunod talaga sa plano ng organization. Okay? Even without looking at their day-to-day na activities. Now, some financial planning terms before we move on. So budget, nasabi ko na. When plans are converted into quantitative terms, we now call it budget. Okay? And there are three ways for us to construct yung ating budget. So we have top-down na mandated approach. We also have participative or bottom-up. And we have the blended na approach. Anong difference ng top-down, participative, and blended? Pag sinabi mong top-down na mandated approach, most of the budgets or ang participation ay nasa top management. Ikakascade lang nila pababa yung mga budget na nabubuo. Ano bang advantage kapag top management na yung nagde-decide for the company pagdating sa budget? One of the advantages is quick preparation time and clear communication of management objectives. Siyempre, yung top management ang nakakaalam ng pinaka gustong mangyari sa organization. So when they come up with their budget, siyempre, close ito sa objective ng organization at mabilis po ito. Okay? Yun ang advantage ng top-down. Pag participative naman, bottom-up, merong participation yung lower level na management. So the usual process is manggagaling muna sa lower level managers and then it will be submitted pataas for the approval. So ang advantage naman dito sa participative na to, yung mga empleyado like the lower level managers, they will be most likely they would accept the budget. I-embrace nila yung budget. Bakit naman hindi? Sila rin naman yung nag-propose ng mga budget na yan. And also, the morale may be improved. Siyempre, if you give chance or if you let the lower level managers participate in the budget or in the financial planning process, so iba yung mabigyan sila ng pagkakataon na mag-participate, medyo nakaka-encourage yun in the part of the lower level managers. Parang they feel like they really belong and their voice is important in the organization. Yun yung advantage naman. Okay? And pero siyempre, may advantages yung dalawa. Meron ding disadvantage. Ang top-down, yung sinasabi kong kanina na employee morale, etc., yun yung disadvantage niya. So without the participation of the lower level managers, we don't really think na they would embrace yung mga nasa lower level, they would embrace the budget being cascaded sa kanila. Although wala naman sila magagawa. Kaya lang ang disadvantage lang, they might view yung ganong situation, yung top-down mandated approach na parang medyo dictatorial. And yun na nga, they may just accept pero they may not fully embrace yung budget na binigay sa kanila. They would think na sobrang kulang o kaya they would think na sobrang dami ng budget ng iba and so on. Yun naman yung disadvantage niyan. Pero mabilis. Yun number one. Yung participative, ang advantage niyan, yes, motivate sila pero medyo matagal lang ng proseso. Kasi syempre, you have to wait for the lower level managers to finish their proposals. Yun, kaya medyo time consuming po talaga. And the managers may try to pad their budgets. So syempre masyado nilang lalakihan yung budget siguro nila. Yun ang naging problema naman na nasa top management on how they can control or evaluate nila kung talagang kailangan ba ng mga departments itong mga ito. So which one is better? Meron pa po tayong blended. Ito yung from the term itself, combination ng top-down at saka ng participative. Meaning there are some items na or some aspects in the budget na ang style ay top-down pero may mga items na you are really seeking the participation of the lower level managers. So which one is better? So it depends on the company. Kung maliit lang naman yung company, siguro okay na yung top-down mandated approach. Pero kung malaki yung company, siguro mukhang maganda na mag-participative, no? Or they may adapt the blended. Pero depende pa rin po yun sa organization. Wala po tayong absolute rule na ito ang best na approach para dito sa isang organization. It always depends on the nature, on the size of the organization. Okay, so walang sinasabing perfect, pero malaking bagay po talaga yung participative because of people having the participation. They would most likely they would embrace the budget of the company. Ayan. So master budget, operating and financial budget. Pag sinabi mong operating budget, ang kasama po dito ay yung budgeted na income statement. Pero pag financial budget, kasama po dito ay yung ating cash budget, yung ating balance sheet, yung projected na balance sheet. And paminsan-minsan po ay yung capital outlay budget. Okay, or capital budget. Di ba long term to? Yes, pero sabi ko nga long term to, but the project would start next month. So, lahat po ng this long term na project would start na. Kaya magiging part na rin siya ng master budget. Okay? We need to set aside cash para dito sa mga ito. So, dapat nakasama po siya sa master budget natin. Okay? Pero again, yung tatlo po na to, ito yung usually part ng master budget. Again, ito ay paminsan-minsan lang. Okay. Oops. Ano muna tayo? Multiple choice. Ano kaya itong budget na to? Barangay Bagets is preparing budget on its equipment needs on an ongoing basis, with a new quarter being added to the budget as the current quarter is completed. This type of budget is commonly known as what? Is it a capital budget? Is it a rolling budget? Is it a revised budget or pro forma budget? Again, preparing budget on its equipment needs on an ongoing basis, with a new quarter being added to the budget as the current year is completed. This type of budget is most commonly known as, what is this? Can I see your answers in the chat box? Patingin nga. B, oh, puro B. All right, sabi ko nga. The answer is rolling budget. So, ang gusto nang sabihin ng rolling budget, you prepare the budget for the 4 quarters na. Eh, natapos na yung first quarter. Once na natapos yan, may basis ka na para magawa mo yung another quarter. Eh, natapos yung second quarter, gagawa ka na uli. So, rolling budget po siya. The budget is always for a year. Na every time one period is completed, gawa ka uli ng bagong budget. That is your rolling budget. Some answered for capital budget because of the equipment. It might also be correct, but the best answer is rolling budget because of some other definitions dito sa ating question. Okay? It might be a capital budget because equipment po ito, but then again, it's a rolling budget because of the some other definitions. Okay. So, some other terms, budget report. I have mentioned earlier that the budget report shows the difference between the actual and the budget. So it is simply performance management or measurement of the performance. Okay. Continuous or rolling budget. Continuous budget is also another term. So alam na natin to. It was explained a while ago. Another is the fixed or static budget. Pang ilang level lang? Only for one level of activity yung budget natin. Pero if you consider you being dynamic. So every time the actual is different from the budgeted, yung actual level is different, we always adjust. Lahat ng variable component natin sa budget, i-adjust natin to come up with a flexible budget. At when we do budget report, dapat itong flexible budget ang kino-compare natin versus our actual, not the static budget. Ang static budget again is because it is just for one level only. Okay? So kung parang hindi naman masyadong nangyayari na kung ano yung pinaka-budget mo or plano mo, exactly yun ang mangyayari. So there would be some changes, and with all those changes, dapat i-adjust nga po natin. Flexible yung ating budget. Okay? So next, zero-based budgeting. Ito yung mga paggawa ng budget na palagi kang nag-i-start from scratch or from zero base, or meaning every time you come up with a budget, hindi ka naman tumitingin sa mga previous kasi parang it's always a different thing. You always justify na every period, ito yung kailangan natin ngayon dadagdagan na natin ngayon yan. So susunod na period ay babawasan ng konti. Kumbaga, there's always a justification as if wala talagang basis. Kaya nga siya tinawag na zero-based budgeting. You always start with all your justifications. Okay? We also have what we call life cycle budget. Yung budget magmula sa sa research pa lang and development of the product hanggang sa maisip na nila na i-design, i-produce, i-introduce sa market. Tapos sa market, 'di ba, may stage 'yan sa una, dahan-dahan lang, later on ma-reach niya yung peak or maturity niya, later on magde-decline na rin yung appreciation ng mga customers sa product, so hanggang sa matapos na yung life cycle ng product na yon. So yung budget na yon, itong life cycle budget, ito yung budget mula sa simula, birth ng product hanggang sa matapos na yung product or mawala na sa market yung product natin. Okay? ABC. ABC. Activity-based budgeting. Gumagamit ng ABC. Okay? So basically, it applies ABC principles pagdating sa budgeting. Yun lang naman yung gusto niyang sabihin dito. Kaizen budgeting, basta nandun yung parang term na continuous improvement. That's Kaizen, no? Pag nandun yung expectations of continuous improvement into budgetary estimates, that's Kaizen budgeting. So some other terms lang para familiar tayo pag lumabas sa theories. Okay. Ano po ang starting point for a master budget? Is it direct materials purchase budget? Is it the budgeted income statement? Is it sales forecast or sales budget? Or is it the production budget? Naku po, parang sinabi ko to kanina. Dapat pala hindi ko na to tinanong ngayon. Pero tingnan natin kung meron pong mahuhuli. Ayan, very good. Nagkaisa po tayong lahat. Ang answer po is really letter C. Thank you po for giving. Oops. Nasobrahan po ako ng pindot. Lumabas po yung answer ng pangalawa. Hindi ko alam kung nakita nyo. So one difference between budgeting in for-profit and not-for-profit entities is that not-for-profit entities usually blank. Naku, nakita nyo na eh. But just to elaborate na lang, yung answer natin, ang not-for-profit ay nagbabudget ng expenses before revenues. Yun yung difference niya doon sa mga businesses na after sa profit. Okay? So kung ang simula natin sa yung mga for-profit ay sales budget, dito po ay expenses. Okay? Ayan. So let's talk about the budgeting process. So nasabi ko kanina, from the sales forecast, we will have the sales budget. So generally, ang ating budgeting process would really start with your sales budget. And from the sales budget, manganganak po yan ng production budget. Kasi nakaangkla, ano ba term doon? Naka-align, nakadepende. Ayun, nakadepende ang production natin kung ilan ang gusto natin na mabenta, yung nasa sales budget natin. And also, if we are producing or even if we are not if we are selling the items, then whether merchandise inventory or finished goods inventory, may pino-purchase tayo, merchandise inventory or yung raw materials inventory. So we also have the purchases budget depending on the sales budget and production budget natin. And in that way, we can have the cost of goods sold budget. Parang ano yan, di ba? Sales, ang sales natin, if we add yung ating formula dati noon sa merchandising and manufacturing, di ba? Yung beginning plus purchases minus ending, what do we have? We have our sold. Yan ay kapag merchandising. Pero kapag manufacturing po tayo, beginning, pero ito ay finished goods, hindi merchandise inventory, plus produced. Ayan, minus ending, we have our sold naman kapag nasa manufacturing. So yan yung ating formula, di ba? If you still remember. And then after that, we can also come up with the ending inventory budget. Ano ba yung gusto natin mangyaring ending inventory? Or ano ba ang gusto nating amount of inventory or ilang piraso or ilang units ba ang gusto natin maiwan at the end of the period. Okay? So, gagawa rin tayo ng OPEX budget. Pag sinabi nating OPEX, mamaya i-elaborate ko po, hihimayin natin lahat ng budgets na to. So, pero generally, ang OPEX budget natin would be your, alin po, would be your selling and marketing expenses at saka yung administrative expenses natin. Diba? So, lahat ng OPEX natin, whether cash or non-cash, nandito po yan. Okay? We also have the budgeted income statement. So, di ba, sales minus cost of goods sold minus the OPEX, the budgeted income statement. Okay. And also, we have the cash budget. Oops, nawawala yung cursor ko. Ayun, the cash budget. Yan. And we have the capital budget. So, yung capital budget, sabi natin, ito yung paminsan-minsan lang. Okay? So, pag meron ka ng budgeted income statement and you have the cash budget, kasi sa cash budget, minsan malalaman mo, kulang pala yung pera mo. So, mangungutang, mag-loan. So, pag may loan, may interest. So, magiging part uli ng income statement yon. Diba? Eh kung sobra-sobra naman yung cash mo, anong ginagawa mo minsan? Ini-invest mo. So, meron ka naman other income pa. So, papasok yun sa income statement mo uli. And that's the time that you can come up with your budgeted na balance sheet. If you look at this, operating budget, lahat ng may kinalaman sa operations, mula sales hanggang makagawa ka ng budgeted income statement, that's part of operating budget. Pero ito namang financial budget natin, yung tatlo nga, budgeted balance sheet, cash budget, and your capital budgets. Okay. So, let's talk about the sales budget. Ang sales budget natin, by the way, lahat ng budget na itatanong sa exam, ibig sabihin, yun yung nasa ilalim ng table natin. Ang sales budget kasi, minsan ang tanong dito sa sales budget, ano ba ang gagawin natin? Cash sales ba tayo? Or credit sales ba tayo? Okay? Kung mix tayo sa sales natin, ang tanong, 20% lang ba yung cash mo, tapos all the rest, 80% na yung credit sales natin? Kasi if that's the case, medyo may mga anak na budget din po yan. Collection budget. Kasi di ba yung sa collection natin ng cash dito. Or if the company wishes to have all of their sales na on credit, so 100% would be on credit. So, manganganak pa rin yan ng collections budget kasi yung collections niyan would depend ano ba ang credit terms natin. Okay, so pag sinabi natin sales budget, number one, tulad ng sabi natin, we have the cash sales and the credit sales. Simply, just get the total sales natin for the month of January, February, and March kung yan ang period na kinoconsider natin. Okay? As simple as that lang na schedule or table. Kaya lang sa totoong buhay, hindi madaling gumawa ng forecast ng sales. Hindi po siya ganun kadali. Because you have to consider nga yung outside environment. Mukha lang siya madali kasi ito na yung nakikita natin. Pero to get the data on all of this is not that easy. So you need the opinion of those who are expert in sales, who are exposed in the sales division of the company, or who are exposed in the customers or in the operations. So it might seem easy, Pero sa tunay na buhay, isa to sa pinakamahirap. At since ito ang starting point ng budget, ito yung pinaka-critical talaga. Because everything else sa ilalim ng sales budget will just follow. Yan. So going back. So balik lang po ako. Tanggalin ko lang yung mga extra na sinulat ko. Okay? So as simple as that kapag hinahanap yung sales budget. Pero tulad na sabi ko, manganganak yan ng collections budget. Ang collections budget natin, syempre, kung alam mo na ang sales mo ay cash and credit sales, so syempre, for January, Feb, and March, we have the total sales. Okay? How do we come up with the collections budget? Ang number one na kailangan mo, ano ba yung collection policy? Okay? Ang collection policy, iba sinasabi, 60% collected in the first month or on the month of sale. And then 30% will be collected the following month. The 10% will not be collected. Meron tayong uncollectibles. So with that, gagawa lang tayo ng simple table na kung dalawang buwan to, so January, February, and March. Ano ba yung collection natin this month and collection natin from last month? So ipa-plot natin, gagawa lang tayo ng schedule at ang bottom line natin ay total collections. Okay? So in other words, we just have to come up kung ano yung pangalan ng budget, yun dapat yun nasa ilalim ng table natin, total collections. Kanina sales budget, yun yung nasa ilalim ng table natin, yung total sales. Okay? Again, kapag collections budget ang pinagagawa, you always have to check the collection policy. For you, before you come up with the correct schedule of payments, collections rather. Okay? Sir, paano kung cash lahat ng sales natin? Ibig sabihin, ang sales budget mo is also your collections budget na. So nangyayari ba na ganun? Cash basis lahat? Yes. May mga businesses na cash basis lahat. Hindi po, so ibig sabihin, no need to come up with the collections budget. Siya na mismo yung sales budget mo. Okay? So let's move to the purchases budget. Ayan. Ang purchases budget natin, depende muna kung ano ba yung pino-purchase. Tanong mo, ang pinakatitingnan mo sa exam agad, anong klaseng company ba to? Kung ito ay merchandising, alam naman natin kung ano pino-purchase natin pag merchandising. Ano na, yung goods na mismo, we are just going to sell as is. Okay? So dati, dito ko na lang lalagay yung nilagay ko kanina, beginning merchandise inventory plus purchases minus ending equals sold. To come up with the purchases budget, ang kailangan mo lang gawin or pag ang tanong sa exam ay purchases for a particular month, gamitin lang ulit natin January, Feb, and March. To come up with that, you just have to rearrange ito kasi ang gusto natin mangyari, kung ano yung pangalan ng budget, yun yung nasa ilalim ng table natin. So, rearrange. So, that would be sold plus ending minus beginning, we have our purchases. Arrange lang po natin for the months of January, Feb, and March. Ayan. Saan nanggagaling yung sold natin? Nanggagaling po ito sa sales budget natin. And please take note that your budget could be expressed in terms of peso or could be expressed in terms of units. Kapag units na yung sales budget natin, yun na mismo yung ilalagay mo sa sold natin. Okay? How do we accomplish itong ending inventory natin? Ang ending inventory natin dito, ang hahanapin natin ay inventory policy. Ano yung inventory policy? Ang ginagawa ng company, nagre-retain sila ng 20% of next month na needs natin na ibenta. Okay? So if that's the policy, itong ending inventory natin would be 20% of February. Ito naman 20% of March. Ito naman 20% of April naman. So that's how we establish yung ending inventory. Look for the policy. How about the beginning? So whatever ending here, ibababa mo lang dito. Beginning siya ng following month. Whatever ending here, bababa dito. Whatever ending here, pang April na siya na beginning. Pero ito, kompleto na yung January, Feb, and March natin. Ang tanong, saan manggagaling yung beginning nito ng January? First, you have to look at your balance sheet. Hanapin mo, ano ang yung balance sheet as of 12/31 nung previous year. ano ang merchandise inventory balance natin ng 12/31. Yun yung ilalagay natin dito. Sir, walang balance sheet. Ano gagawin natin? Baka naman pag binasa mo yung exam, may kwento. Anong kwento yung tinutukoy natin? Minsan, walang balance sheet na binigay, naka-narrate. Sasabihin niya kung ilan yung ending natin as of December 31. Sir, wala ring kwento. Walang balance sheet, walang kwento. May pangatlong option pa tayo. We can assume that the inventory policy was implemented even before pa. Ibig sabihin, as of December, yung ending niya ay 20% din ng January. Kaya itong 20% na to ng January ay magiging beginning din ng January. So yun yung tatlong paraan natin sa pag-establish ng beginning na inventory dito sa unang month ng budget natin. Again, number 1, look at the balance sheet. Number 2, oops, nasa cursor. Number 2, kung wala balance sheet, look at the kwento. Look at the problem. Baka naka-narrate. Number 3, assume na inventory policy was implemented even before. Okay. Yan ay kapag merchandising. Pero kapag manufacturing po, ang pinag-uusapan natin, paano yung purchases niya? Okay? So, let me erase yung part na to. Kapag manufacturing. Ang tanong sa exam, magkano yung or ilan ang ipapurchase or magkano ang purchases natin kapag manufacturing company naman ang pinag-uusapan natin. Medyo may konting pagkakaiba lang. Ayan. Konti lang na may pagkakaiba. Because of the idea kung ano yung pinapurchase kapag merchandising at kapag manufacturing. Okay, kapag manufacturing kasi, beginning plus produced, yan po tayo, minus ending is your sold. Now, ang unang kailangan mong gawin ay yung production budget. So, sold plus ending minus beginning is your produced. So, that's the time that you rearrange your formula at production budget na yung magagawa natin. Okay? Paano tayo pupunta sa purchases? Ang pinapurchase natin ay raw mats. Ang raw mats, beginning plus purchases minus ending. We have our used. Okay? So, dito sa mga ito, alin ang related sa production? Yung used. Kaya, used plus ending minus beginning, we have our purchases. Paano naging related ang production sa used? Sinasabi yan sa exam minsan. For every unit of output, may 3 units of input. So whatever na mako-compute mo sa production dito, mumultiply lang natin lahat ng 3, yan na yung number of units na used natin. Okay? Yun kasi yung related sa isa't isa, yung produced at saka used. Okay? But how do we complete the table? Ang sold saan manggagaling? Sales budget. So kung units yan, yan na mismo yung nakalagay dito. Saan manggagaling yung ending dito? Sa inventory policy. Ano ba inventory policy natin? Sabi, 10% ng next month na sales ang ating inventory policy. So 10% of next month, 10% of next month, 10% of next month. So paano naman yung beginning? So ibababa lang natin dito, ibababa lang natin dito. Paano uli yung beginning ng first month natin? Look at the balance sheet. Look at the kwento. Kung wala, we apply 10% of sarili niya. Or noon, para mas ma-imagine yung December, kung ito ay January, di ba 10% ng January to, ibababa lang po natin dito. Kaya ako sinabing 10% ng sarili niya kasi 10% ng January. Okay? Mas ma-realize natin yan kapag nag-start na tayo mag-solve. Mas madaling-madali na siya kapag may mga problems na. Gusto ko lang ma-imagine nyo saan hinuhugot yung mga data na yan. Okay. So, going back here. So, meron ka ng produced sa bawat month. So, hanapin ang ratio ng output versus input. I-multiply po dito. Okay? 3 pala yung kailangan. So, you have the number of units of materials used, number of pounds, pwede rin. And after that, ending po. Saan magagaling ending? Hanap uli ng inventory policy on the ending na raw mats. Sabi, 30% ng needs next month. So, pwedeng 30% nito, 30% nito, 30% ng following month. Paano yung beginning? Bababa lang po uli dito yung beginning natin. Meron na tayong beginning. Paano yung beginning ng raw mats? Again, paulit-ulit to. Balance sheet, kwento, or yung 30% ng sarili niya. Kasi yun yung 30%, yun yung kasing nasa previous month. And after that, you can come up with the purchases kapag manufacturing yung process natin. Okay? So, yun po yung pag nakita sa exam na merchandising ang nature ng business or type of business, start ka na ng sold plus ending minus beginning purchases na. Pero pag nakita mong manufacturing, dalawang steps. Production budget muna bago mag-come up with the purchases budget. Okay? So, actually, nandito pala yung production budget na slide. Okay? So, production budget for materials, nandito pala yun, nagbura pa ako, no? Tapos, production budget for labor. So, meron kasing, yung production budget kasi natin, mga anak ng DM budget, DL budget, at OH budget. So, paano yun? So, tulad nung kanina, tapos na tayo sa DM budget, yun po yung purchases. Okay? Gaano karami ang ipopurchase natin ng materials? Yun po yung sa DM budget. Paano yung DL budget? Magsisimula ulit tayo sa production budget. So, sold plus ending minus beginning, we have our produced. Okay? So, for the months of January, February, and March, again, we just assume yung period natin or yung months natin. Okay? So, not yet the final answer. So, this time, ang sold ay galing sa sales budget. Ayan, inuulit-ulit ko na lang po. Memorize na natin agad-agad. Ending natin, ending na finished goods po yan. So, saan hahanap? Inventory policy. Anong policy? 10% of next month. Ayan. So, ulit-ulit lang po na ganun. Paano yung beginning natin? Yun po, bababa lang po doon. Paano ito? Tatlo uli yan. Balance sheet, kwento, o kaya yung 10% ng sarili niya. Okay? So, we can have our production budget. From the production budget, since DL budget ang pinag-uusapan natin, DL budget, ang mangyayari po dito, i-multiply natin for every one output, how many DLH ang kailangan natin. So, ang DLH po natin, halimbawa, 4 hours na DLH, lahat po na ito, i-multiply lang natin ng 4. So, with that, we have the DLH sa bawat buwan. DL budget tayo, so multiply lang natin ng rate. Ano bang rate natin ngayon sa siguro mga 80 pesos per hour. Parang 88 to. So ang rate natin ay let's say 80 pesos per hour. 80 pesos per hour. 80 pesos per hour. So i-multiply lang natin yung rate natin. We will come up with the direct labor cost or direct labor budget. Ganun lang po kasimple. Kumbaga, ang dami lang ng budget na ginagawa, pero if you look at it, it is not that difficult to prepare yung mga budget natin. Okay? So, kung OH naman yung pinag-uusapan natin, ganun lang din. Gagawa ka lang uli ng sold plus ending minus beginning. We have our production budget. Tapos, from the production budget, ano ang OH per unit? Multiply lang natin, we have the overhead budget na. So, ganun lang po lagi ginagawa natin. Just be careful minsan na baka hindi naman pala sales ang given. Hindi naman sales budget ang given. Baka production budget na. Minsan na pagbabaliktad ng mga estudyante, production ang binigay, nilalagay pa rin sa taas. Kasi nakasanayan nila na sold lagi yung nasa ibabaw. So be careful na kapag production na, dito na tayo. Immediately, multiply natin sa OH per unit. Okay po. Yan ang production budget. Production pero overhead budget. Ayan. OPEX budget naman po tayo. Ano-ano ba ang OPEX na, nasobrahan. Ano-ano ba ang OPEX na meron tayo? For example, we have the rent. We have the advertisement. We have the salaries. And we have the wages. O kaya iba naman pinagsasama na nila salaries and wages. Okay? So, bakit ba pinag-iwalay natin ng konti? Just to emphasize na ang salaries, ang nature niyan most likely ay fixed. Ang wages ay variable. Okay? So, gawin natin for the months of January, February, and March. Ang rent, saan manggagaling? Meron naman po tayong contract of lease or lease contract. Sa contract nakalagay, magkano ang rent? Let's say, 100,000 per month. So, that would be fixed for all the months natin. Okay? How about advertisement? Yung minsan ang sinasabi dito, 5% of sales. So whatever sales that you have, yun yung magiging amount na nandito. So imumultiply lang po natin sa with our sales. Salary is fixed, let's say 200,000. So as simple as you are really completing the table or the budget for for January 5 and March. Wages, let's say 10% of sales. Yan ang wages natin. So ibig sabihin, kumpletuhin mo lang to. You will come up with your OPEX. Pero meron pa po tayong mga non-cash OPEX like depreciation expense. Let's say fixed to na 25,000 per month. So i-plot lang po natin so that at the end of the process, we will come up with the total OPEX. Kung magkano man yung total niyan. Okay? So we have the OPEX budget na. Ang OPEX budget po ay pwedeng manganak ng disbursement budget. Actually, hindi lang OPEX budget. Hindi lang OPEX budget, pati purchases, saka OPEX. Pero with the disbursement, kailangan mong malaman kung ano yung policy or disbursement or payment policy ng company. Yung iba, ang purchases nila, 50% binabayaran on the first month or on the month of purchase. Pero another 50% binabayaran the following month. Sa OPEX naman, let's say lahat ng OPEX natin na cash, binabayaran 100% on the month of incurrence ng mga OPEX natin, bayad agad. Pwede po mangyari. In other words, just look for the disbursement policy. Okay? Para ma-plot mo magkano disbursement this month, magkano ang disbursement out of the last month na mga commitments natin. Okay? Mamaya po, practicein natin. Ito yung ito yung tatawid na sa financial budget, yung ating cash budget. Ngayon, sa cash budget, gusto lang naman natin masigurado that we have enough cash to pay for all the disbursements at kung ano pa yung mga obligations natin ng mga sineset aside natin. Okay? Now, ang cash budget, ang kwento lang naman yan, di ba gusto mo makasigurado that you have enough. E di, ano ba yung cash mo at the beginning? Ano ba yung collections mo? Ang collections mo saan galing? Sa collections budget na nanganak mula sa sales budget. And after that, we have our cash available or CA. Okay? For January, Feb, and March. Ang beginning natin, collections natin from collection budget. Cash available is the sum of your cash beginning and your collections. At gusto natin mangyari na ang cash available natin ay enough para sa number 1, disbursements. Ano-ano ba yung mga dinidisburse natin? Number 1, galing sa purchases. Nag-disburse tayo galing sa purchases. Number 2, yung mga OPEX natin, di ba? Yung mga pambayad ng rent, salary, etc. Meron pa ba tayong ibang dinidisburse? Dito papasok yung mga, kapag meron tayong loan, pwedeng magkaroon tayo ng i-disburse na interest. So kapag may dividends tayo, magbabayad na ng dividends. So lalagay din po natin. Ito lahat ng disbursement natin. Meron pa bang iba? Kapag ito na yung capital budget natin. Yung sinasabi natin na for 5 years nga siya, pero ang initial cash outlay natin ay mangyayari in the month of January. So yan yung mga possible na mayroon tayong mga disbursement. Okay? So alin ang minsan wala? Capital. Dividend depende, di ba? Interest depende. Pero itong dalawa laging meron. Okay? So if you get the sum, that would be your total na disbursement. Pero meron pa po tayong isang kailangan, minimum cash requirement. Bakit? Kasi posible na ang cash available mo after all those considerations ay 500,000. Tapos, ang total disbursement mo ay 400, sabihin natin na umabot din ng 500,000. So in that case, wala ka ng pera after niyan. So, ang company hindi pwedeng zero at the end of the period. Paano kinabukasan? Paano ng February kung saktuhan-saktuhan ng pera? So, normally, the company set minimum cash requirement. Let's say 50,000. Ibig sabihin, meron tayong excess or deficit. Meron tayong deficit na 50,000 dito. Okay? Ayan. So, anong gagawin ng company kapag may deficit? Maglo-loan. O kaya hihingi ng pera sa may-ari. So let's say 50,000 hihingi. So that at the end of the period, excess or deficit after all your actions, zero na. Magkano ang cash beginning natin pagtawid ng February? 50,000. Yung MCR, minimum cash requirement. Okay? The company really set na dapat hindi bababa ng ganito yung cash natin in the bank. Okay? Another scenario. So, ang ating total disbursements amounted to 300,000 lang. Tapos, ang minimum cash requirement ay 50,000. So, may excess tayo na 150,000. So, what do? We invest. Pero itong loan or invest, depende sa company. Kung may sobrang pera, pwede naman walang gawin. Pero talagang ang rule ng company, pag may sobra, i-invest. In-invest yung 120,000. Ang excess natin ay 30,000. Tama? Magkano ang makikarry over na cash balance natin next period? 80,000 na. The minimum cash requirement at saka yung excess natin na 30,000. Kasi in-invest natin yung 120,000. Ayan. Another scenario na kailangan nating minsan-minsan lang naman lumalabas sa exam, no? Sabi rito, 500,000 to. Ang total disbursement natin ay 440 ano no, 473,500. Tapos ang minimum cash requirement ay 50,000. Meron ba tayong excess or deficit? So meron tayong deficit na 23,500. Ayan. So what do? Loan natin yung 23,500. So wala na tayong excess. So itong cash makikarry over ay 50,000. Kaya lang, minsan ang company, ang mga bangko or financial institutions hindi nagpapautang ng butal-butal. So nagpapautang daw at an increment of 10,000. So therefore, 23,500 lang kailangan mo, mapipilitan ka mangutang ng 30,000. So ang excess na cash natin after we had our loan is 6,500. Kaya ang makikarry over po natin na cash the following period would be 56,500. So may mga ganong senaryo po. Ingat lang po kung magkano ilo-loan kasi baka may sinabi sa problem na they can only borrow at an increment of 10,000 or 5,000 and so on. Pag wala naman sinabi that they can borrow only at increment of ganito, of ganyan, just stick with the loan amounting equal to the deficit, which is 23,500. Okay? Yun po yung dinagdag lang natin or in-emphasize natin sa cash budget. Now, budgeted income statement. Alam naman natin itsura ng income statement natin. We have our sales. We have our cost of goods sold. We have our GP minus all your OPEX. We have our operating income. Now, for January, Feb, and March, saan magagaling yung sales dito? Di sa sales budget. So, meron ka na nito. Saan magagaling cost of goods sold na to? Di ba may sold ka naman talaga kanina dun sa previous na budget natin? So meron na. From here, we can come up with our gross profit. Okay? And after that, yung OPEX saan magagaling? Di ba may OPEX budget ka? Kumbaga, lahat ng budget natin na ginagawa ay nakakonect sa ibang mga budget natin na ginawa. So we have the OPEX budget here. And after that, we have our operating income. Yan. So, bahala na yung kwento regarding the interest and the taxes. So in other words, this is our budgeted income statement na nabuo out of the schedules or out of the operational or operating budget. Okay? So next is the budgeted balance sheet. So we have our asset, liabilities, and capital, or shareholders equity or partners equity. Okay? So depende po, no? All your assets. So alam naman natin to na asset should be equal to the liab plus capital or share or partners equity. Ang gusto ko na lang i-emphasize dito, ano yung mga related dun sa mga other na budgets. Dito po, yung accounts receivable, please take note na ang accounts receivable natin pagdating sa exam ay intended lang sa ating mga sales on account. Okay? Again, kaya pag merong may mga tanong regarding the sales, tapos kailangan mo ng balance or kung magkano man yung balance from previous period, we assume na lahat ng AR ay para sa sales on account. Pagdating naman sa liabilities, yung accounts payable natin, lahat ng AP natin ay dahil sa mga purchases on account. Okay? Pakitandaan po yung dalawa na yan. Okay? Ayan. Ayan. So ano lang konting tanong lang bago tayo mag-start with some problems. O i-ready na yung calculator because in a while also we will have our problems na baon na sasagutan. Okay, which of the following will occur if Legio's actual sales in May are lower than its budgeted sales for that month? Is it A, Lidio won't have enough cash to cover bills requiring payment in May? Or is it B, Lidio's actual inventory at the end of May will be higher than budgeted? Or is it C, Lidio's actual purchases in June will be higher than budgeted? Or is it D, all of the choices? Sige po, pakalagay po sa chat box ng ating answer. Analyze ng konti. Actual sales na May lower than the budgeted sales. Anong mangyayari? Okay. All right. So mukhang pare-parehas tayo ng answer. So the answer is okay. Sabi ko nga, tama po tayong lahat. Lahat po na ay sumagot ng letter B. Legio's actual inventory at the end of May will be higher than budgeted kasi konti nga lang yung nabenta. Therefore, matitira at the end ay mas marami. Very good. Okay. Next. Let's have these problems na. Okay? I'm going to give you a minute kasi una pa lang naman to solve for this one. The company desires an ending inventory of 120,000. It expects sales of 240,000 and has a beginning inventory of 80,000 pesos. But its cost of sales is 60% of sales and budgeted purchases are blank. So I'm giving you 1 minute to answer this problem. Okay. Okay, so may mga answers na in the chat box pero we will be waiting for the answers of the from the others. So mukhang pare-parehas naman ng answer. Kala ko may magmamadali at hindi mapapansin. Okay, so sold. Oops, ba't ayaw lumabas? Ayan, sold plus ending minus beginning. We have our purchases. Ayan. So ang sold natin ay 240,000 pero ito ay sales. Kailangan po ay cost of goods sold, 60%. So times 60%. Okay? Ang ending po natin ay 120,000. Ang beginning po natin ay 80,000. So magkano po ito? You are correct. This is 184,000. All right. So this time, let's solve for the next problem. Okay? So mom, she incorporated budgeted purchases of 200,000. Cost of sales was 240,000. And desired ending inventory was 84,000. The gross profit rate is 40%. The beginning inventory was blank. Magkano ang beginning inventory po natin? Okay. Hindi na ako nagbigay ng 1 minute. Mukhang mabilis naman tayong lahat. Very good. So pampahilab lang muna yung mga sinasolve natin. Alright. So sabi ng karamihan, 124,000. So let's solve for this. So we have our sold. Oops, ba tayo sumulat? Sold uli. Plus ending minus beginning. We have our production or produced. Okay. So 18,000. Bakit napunta dito? Sorry. So we have the sold plus ending, napindot ko pala, minus purchases this time. So we can have our beginning inventory. Ang sold po natin ay cost of sales 240,000. Ang ending natin ay 84,000. Ang beginning po natin ay nawawala. Pero ang purchases po natin ay 200,000. So alam na po natin ang answer. The answer is 124,000. Ayan. So ano muna? Kalma-kalma muna tayo. Next. So Bajang Richness Corporation budgeted sales of 18,000 units. So the budgeted beginning inventory was 3,000 and the budgeted ending inventory was 5,000 units. Ang budgeted production ay, tuloy na po natin. So ang sold po ay 18,000. Tapos ang ending po natin ay 5,000. Ang beginning po ay 3,000. So therefore, ang produced units natin ay 20,000. Okay, that's for the next problem. Ito naman po. Okay, so Hopia had budgeted sales of 44,000 units for January and 60,000 for February. So the budgeted beginning inventory for January 1 was 14,000 units. Hopia desires an ending inventory equal to 1/2 of the following month's sales needs. So budgeted production for January is blank. So I'm giving you 30 seconds to answer this one. Okay, so let's solve for this. Production ng tinatanong. So sold plus ending minus beginning. So we have our produced. For the month of January, ang tinatanong. So ang sales natin for January is 44,000. Ang ending po natin ay equal to 1/2 of the following month's sales. So ang February natin ay 60,000. So half nun ay 30,000. Magkano beginning natin? Sinabi naman po na 14,000. So therefore, ang answer po natin, 44 plus 30 minus 14, that would be 60,000 units. Tingin? Okay, very good. So lahat po tayo answered for 60,000 units. Okay. So let's have this another example. So Budapest Foods Corporation manufactures a single product. It keeps its inventory of finished goods at 75% the coming month's budgeted sales. Inventory of raw materials at 50% of the coming month's budgeted production needs. Each unit of product requires 2 pounds of materials. The production budget is in units. Yung May 1,000, June 1,2, July 1,300, August 1,600, and raw materials purchases in June would be how much? So I'm giving you a minute to solve for this one. Okay, so let's now answer the problem. Okay? Ang tinatanong ay purchases in the month of June. So tulad ng sabi natin, pag purchases tapos ito ay manufacturing company, we start with the production budget first. Pero kagandahan dito kasi yung production, sinabi na niya kung ilan, kumbaga hindi na sales budget yung binigay. There was a time sa exam, itong production ay pinalitan ko ng sales budget. But the students answered for the same na number of units. So be careful with that kasi baka akala nyo magkamukha, may isang word lang ako na baguhin dito sa budget, iba na po lahat ng sagot. Okay, so we will start with the production budget immediately kasi yun na yung binigay sa atin. So for the month of June, ang budget po ay 1,200. Ngayon, we have to come up with the purchases. So used plus ending minus beginning, we have our purchases. So ang used natin ay ilan? Sabi po rito, each unit of product requires 2 pounds of materials. Okay? So times 2 po para sa use natin. So 2,400 po ang pounds na nagamit natin for the month of June. Okay? How about for the ending na raw mats? Hanapin natin inventory policy. Sabi rito, inventory of raw materials at 50% of the coming month's budgeted production needs. Budgeted production needs. So ngayon, kailangan muna natin ipakita si July. Si July, ilan ang gagawin? 1,3. Ang production needs niya ay 1,3 times 2. So 2,600 po ang gagamitin natin, ang needs natin in the month of July. So therefore, 50% of the coming months production needs. So that would be 1,300. Okay? Ang beginning po natin, wala namang sinabi na beginning, pero tulad ng sabi ko kanina, walang balance sheet, hindi rin ikinuwento, we will assume that the policy was implemented even before. So yung ating May, yung beginning nito, ay yung ending kasi ng May would be 50% po nitong 2,4, which is 1,200. So in other words, wag na tayong gumawa ng May, ito na mismo, 1,200, 50% ng sarili niya. Therefore, the answer in the purchases is 2,500 units. Okay. 2,550. So, ayan. So be careful. It's 2,500 units. Okay. So hanapin po saan tayo nagkaroon ng error.
Hindi nakaan.
Yes po.
Sayang naman. Pabalik ka bukas.
Okay. Mute lang po na. Alright. Yan. So hindi na natin naririnig. So make sure na nakamute po tayo ha. So next. Ayan. So we have here, ito yung mga baong problem talaga natin. So for problem number 1, yung mas kompleto. Ayan. So ang tinatanong dito, we have to prepare a merchandise purchases budget showing how many units should be purchased for each month of April, May, and June. And we have to prepare a schedule of expected cash collection for each month of April, May, and June then. Okay. So how do we prepare the purchases budget? April, May, and June. So, anong klase ito? Merchandising, no? So sold plus ending. Lagi po yun ang start ko kapag gumagawa ng purchases budget ng merchandising. So that would be purchases. Magkano yung sold natin? Ilan yung sold natin? Check natin yung sales budget. Sabi rito, sales in units. Ito na po mismo, 60, 75, and 90. Yun yung sinasabi ko na kapag units na pinag-uusapan, siya na mismo for April, May, and June. So that's 60,000, 75,000, and 90,000. Paano yung ending natin sa merchandise inventory natin? Anong sabi sa policy? So the Board of Directors has established a policy to commence in April that the inventory at the end of each month should contain 40% of the units required for the following month's budgeted sales. So 40% ng 75,000, so 30,000. Tapos ito, 40% ng 90,000, that's 36,000. And then 40% of July, 40% of July, which is 81,000. Lagyan na natin sa July. 81,000. 40% of that is 32,400. Ayan. Paano yung beginning natin? So yung 30,000 ng April, ibababa lang natin dito. Tapos yung 36,000 ng May, nandito lang. Okay? Okay. Meron na tayong May and June. Paano yung beginning natin ng April? So ito yung sinasabi natin. Meron bang balance sheet? Wala pong balance sheet. May kwento ba? So ano ba ang kinuwento na beginning na inventory natin na merchandise? So meron po dito nilagay. Oops, nasa ng cursor. Ayun, 38,000 units. Ayan, 38,000 units. Pero class, paano kung walang balance sheet tas wala pang ikinuwento? Ano ang ilalagay mo na beginning inventory ng April? We will assume na ito ay na-implement na even before. So, 40% ng 60,000 24,000 po ang ilalagay natin. Again, pag walang balance sheet, walang ikinuwento na 38,000 units, we will assume this na same lang yung policy. So 24,000 po ang ilalagay natin. Klaro po yan ha. Pero since may sinabi, so ang gagamitin po natin ay 38,000. So with that, ang ating purchases for the month of April ay 52,000. For the month of May, 81,000. And for the month of June, that would be 86,400. Okay? Ayan. So, sabi sa sumunod, prepare a schedule of expected cash collections for each of the months of April, May, and June. So, cash collection, April, May, and June. Ano ang kailangan mo for cash collection? Kailangan mo muna ng sales budget. Ano ba ang sales natin for April, May, and June? Meron ka units. Magkano ba selling price yan per unit? Ayun, 2 pesos per unit. Ang mura pala. So, ang sales natin ay 120,000 pesos. Ito ay 150,000 pesos. 2 pesos times 75,000. So 2 times 90, so that's 180,000 pesos. Ayan. So another thing, collections po ang tinatanong. So ano kailangan mo malaman? Collection policy. Ano ba yung collection policy? Sabi po rito, 1/3 of sales are paid by the customer are paid for by customers in the month of sale. Okay? Month of sale. Tapos the balance, which is 2/3, is collected in the following month. So wala naman tayong uncollectibles. Okay? So ang gagawa lang po tayo na collection from this month, collection from last month. So that would be your total collections. Yun po yung tanong. Okay? So for this month, sabi 1/3 ng sales. So that would be 40,000. Kailan mo makukolekta 80,000? Next month na, 80,000. Di ba? For this month, ang makukolekta mo, 1/3 nito, 50,000. Ito man, 1/3 nito ay 60,000. Okay. So, magkano makukolekta mo dito from last month? Di ba? Yung galing sa May. So, yung 2/3 nito, 100,000. Ganun po yung schedule natin. Ayan. Paano yung last month na collection natin from last month, nung April? Di ba may sinabi siya, titingnan natin yung accounts receivable sa balance sheet. Walang balance sheet pero may ikinuwento that your AR noong March 31 ay 85,000. So we assume na ito lahat ay, sabi natin, ay may kinalaman sa credit sales. So ito ay 85,000. Okay? So total collections natin ay 125,000 for the month of April, 130,000 for the month of May, and 160,000 for the month of June. Ayan. Possible question in the exam. Magkano ang accounts receivable as of June 30? Magkano accounts receivable ng June 30? Can I see in your chat box? Magkano accounts receivable ng June 30? Anybody? Magkano kaya AR ng June 30? Correct. So as of June 30, ang ating accounts receivable ay 120,000, which is 2/3 ng June. Very good. So ang tanong sa exam uli, this time, magkano ang sales noong March? Magkano ang sales ng March? Magkano ang sales ng March? Okay, so ang sales ng March, kahit na wala namang ibang data, kaya naman natin ma-solve kasi from your 85,000 here na collection from last month, it represents 2/3 ng sales noong March. So 85,000 divided by 2/3. So ibig sabihin, 127,500 ang sales noong March. Correct. Okay, so mukhang okay na tayo dito. Sinabi lang natin mga ibang possible questions. Let's proceed with problem 1. Problem 1. Okay. So nag-alat ako ng space. Mapunta na tayo sa problem 2. Okay, so a sales budget is given. Ulit po A sales budget is given. I remember this problem then, ginawa kong a production budget is given. Tapos yun na naman, nabiktima na naman yung mga estudyante. Akala wala akong binago na kahit ano. So same lang yung pinili nila sa choices. So be careful ah. So a sales budget is given below for one of the products manufactured by the AJ company. Okay. So for January to June, meron ng budget. The inventory of finished goods at the end of each month should equal 20% of the next month's sales. However, on December 31, the finished goods inventory totaled only 4,000 units. Each of the product requires three specialized electrical switches. So meron na tayong ratio 1:3, one output, three input. Since the production of these specialized switches by AG suppliers is sometimes irregular, the company has a policy of maintaining an ending inventory at the end of each month equal to 30% of the next month's production needs. This requirement had been met on January 1 of the current year. Requirement: determine the quantity of switches to be purchased each month of January, February, and March, and in total for the quarter. Okay? So let's answer for this one. Meron kaya ako space for this? Ayan. So for problem number 2, medyo mahaba kasi sa dito na natin isolve. So we have here for the month of January, February, and March. Pero since ang tinatanong po sa atin ay purchases. So kailangan, since ito ay manufacturing, magsimula po tayo sa production budget muna. So sold plus ending minus beginning, we have our produced units. For January, Feb, and March, we have 21,000. For January, babalik lang po ako 21,000. So 21,000, 36,000, and 61,000. Balik po tayo. 36,000 and 61,000. Okay. Ending. Look at the policy. Balik po tayo. Ano sabi ng policy natin? Ending po ng finished goods. Sabi niya, dapat equal po sa 20% of next month's sales. O, balik po tayo. 20% of next month ang ending natin. So 20% ng 36,000 ay 7,200. 20% ng 61 ay 12,200. 20% ng January, Feb, March ng April. Ano ba yung sales ng April? Pag tinignan po natin, it's 41,000. Okay? Balik po tayo. It's 41,000. So 20% of that, that's 8,200. So meron tayong ending. Beginning, ibaba ang 7,200 at saka 12,200. So meron na tayong produce for Feb and March. How about for January? Tingnan po natin yung beginning natin. Meron ba tayong balance sheet? Walang balance sheet. May ikinuwento ba tungkol sa beginning na finished goods? Yes. 4,000 units. Okay. Kung may kinuwento na 4,000 units, yun na mismo yung ilalagay po natin dito. What if walang ikinuwento? Ano dapat ang ilagay ko sa beginning? Pakisabi nga po sa chat box, ano dapat ang ilagay ko sa beginning? Kung wala kinuwento, is it 0? Start ba ng operation? Wala namang sinabi, no? Wala namang sinabi. So ano dapat ilagay ko? Yun. 4,200, correct. Kung walang sinabi, dapat ito ay 4,000. Oops, bakit nagmamadali yung aking slides? 4,200, correct. Kaso may sinabi, so yung actual will prevail over the computed or assumed or budget. So syempre, since meron na tayong 4,000 na sinabi, yun na po mismo yung ilalagay natin dito. Klaro po yan Okay. Kaya naman, ang produce natin ay 24,200 for January. For February, that's 41,000. For March, that's 57,000. Okay. Ang hanap ay purchases. So sabi natin, tatawid tayo sa used plus ending minus beginning, we have our purchases. Anong ratio? 1:3. Kaya naman i-multiply natin yung produced units with 3 units of specialized na electrical switches. Ayan. So times 3 po. So this is 72,600. Times 3, 123,000. Times 3, 171,000. Ayan. So ending, ano uli ang titingnan dito? policy. Policy po lagi ang sasagot sa atin. Anong policy saan? Sa raw materials inventory. Ano bang policy natin sa raw mats? Sabi rito, dahil nga irregular daw minsan yung availability ng mga suppliers na electrical switches, the company has a policy of maintaining ending inventory na equal to 30% of next month's production needs. Okay. So 30% ng next month. So for January, 30% of 123,000 is 36,900. And this one, 30% of 171 is 51,300. And ito naman po, 30% of April. Eh kaso wala tayong April. So kailangan muna malaman mo yung used nung April. Paano mo malalaman? Akyat po tayo dito sa taas. Okay? Kumpletuhin mo yung April natin. Okay? So ang ending natin dito, ano nga yung policy natin sa ending inventory ng finished goods? Pag bumalik tayo, it's 20% of next month. E ano ba yung next month natin dito? Ang April po ay 41,000. Okay, so balik tayo. So April, ay nandiyan na pala sa April. Ang kailangan na po natin ay si May. Ilan yung kay May? 31,000. Okay, so balik tayo ha. 31,000 po yung kay May. Okay, so ilang percent po? 20% ng May. So that would be 6,200. Paano yung beginning nito? So ito po yun. So 8,200. Kaya naman, ang produced po natin ng April ay 39,000. Ayan. So ang used po natin ng April, multiply natin ng 3. So yan ay 117,000. So ngayon, alam na natin to. Kailangan lang naman natin to para sa ending ng March. 30% ng 117, that is 35,100. Beginning, baba ang 36,900 dito, baba ang 51,300 dito. Paano dito? Check natin. Pero nung binasa natin kanina, wala naman tayong nakita na balance sheet. Wala ring ikinuwento kung ilan at the beginning. So therefore, ano ang dapat na ilagay ko sa beginning ng January? Patingin nga sa chat box, ano dapat ang ilagay ko? Check ko rin ha. Patingin. Correct. 21,780. Yan, maraming salamat. So 21,780. Kaya naman, ang purchases natin ay 87,720 for January. Tapos 137,400 for February and 154,800 for March. Kaya naman po, for ang tinatanong din ay for the quarter, just get the total of all these three, 379,920. So yan po yung total electrical switches natin for the quarter. Okay, so we're done with problem number 2. Okay. So let's have this problem number 3. Direct labor budget naman yung pag-uusapan natin. Okay? So we have here for the next 3 months ang tinatanong na budget. For JD Corporation, JD Corporation is working on its DL budget for the next 3 months. Each unit of output requires 0.3 direct labor hour. The direct labor rate is 70 pesos per DLH. The production budget calls for producing, production na po production budget calls for producing 8,000, 9,000, and 10,000 units for April, May, and June respectively. Okay? So April, May, and June. Nasa production budget na po tayo ng 8,000, 9,000, and 10,000. Sabi natin kanina, once you were able to determine kung ilang units po yung kailangan natin i-produce, malalaman na rin natin ilang DLH na po ba ang kailangan natin. Sabi dito, 0.3 DLH per unit. So therefore, ang DLH natin, multiply natin ng 0.3. So that would be 2,400, di ba? Tapos for the month of May, that would be 2,700. Tapos for the month of June, that would be 3,000. Yun na. Tapos, DL budget po. Siyempre, DLH pa lang to. Multiply natin ng rate. Ano bang rate natin? Na 70 pesos per DLH. So therefore, ang direct labor cost natin ay 24 times 70, that's 168,000. So 27 times 70, that's 189,000. And also 3 times 2 times 70, 3,000 times 70, that's 210,000 pesos. Direct labor cost natin. Kung wala nang ibang sinabi na data, ito na yung answer natin for our direct labor budget. Pag sinabi mo kasing direct labor budget, dapat may, 'di ba, may katumbas talaga na cash outlay niyan for that we're going to pay for our direct laborers. Kaya lang may sinabi dito, oh, the company guarantees its direct labor workers a 40-hour paid work week. So meron tayong minimum guaranteed wage. With the number of workers currently employed, that means that the company is committed to paying its direct labor workforce for at least 2,840 hours in total each month if there is not enough work to keep them busy. So babayaran mo sila ng 2,840. Magkano yung 2,840 na yon? Times 70 pesos. Magkano po yun? That's 198,800. Kaya naman, if this is the minimum guaranteed wage, ang direct labor budget natin dito would be, for the month of April, the answer is 198,800, whichever is higher between the minimum guaranteed wage and the actual direct labor cost. Okay? For the month of May, 198,800 din. 'Di ba? Kasi yun yung kailangan na pera na ilabas natin para mag-continue yung operations natin because we have the minimum guaranteed wage. For the month of June, magkano? It's 210,000. Mas malaki na kasi siya. Okay? It is the actual that will prevail. So ang direct labor budget natin would be itong set of data na to because of the additional data na merong minimum na guaranteed wage. Okay? Again, kung wala, ito na. Kaso meron, kaya ito po yung final answer natin. Di ba, ang ginagawa naman natin dito, if you remember in your cost accounting, whatever difference, kapag may minimum guaranteed wage, like in this case, mas mataas ng 30,800, di ba? For the month of April, may 30,800 na difference na pupunta siya sa overhead. Pero for the sake of computing, yung direct labor budget, how much to shell out for the DL workers, that's 198,800. Okay? Because of the minimum guaranteed wage. Ire-reclass na lang yan later on sa OH, yung difference. Pero that's in cost accounting, no? Pero when we talk about budget here in strategic cost management, siyempre, itong ang dapat i-prepare ng company, ng JD Corporation, is not just 168, but 198,800. Okay? So, problem number 4. So, the Redeemer Company has obtained the following sales forecast. Okay? So, for July, August, September, and October, ang tanong po natin dito, angat ka lang ko dito, the regular pattern of collection of credit sales is 20% in the month of sale, 70% in the month of in the month following the month of sale. So 20, 70. What happens to the 10%? Makokolekta pa yung remainder. 20, 70, and 10% ang collection natin. Okay? There are no bad debts. So ang tanong, magkano ang budgeted AR balance on September 30? So number 1 muna tayo. Let's answer. Sige nga po, magkano kaya ang budgeted AR on September 30? Okay, so let's compute for the budgeted AR on September, September 30. So ano-ano yung AR natin? Nung September 30, syempre dito na lang tayo titingin, no, sa mga credit sales AR kasi pinag-uusapan natin. So ang AR natin as of September 30, una, yung kanyang September sales. Sa September sales, ang makukolekta lang dyan ay yung 20. So matitira pa yung 80. So 80% of 180,000. Siyempre, may collection ka, meron ka pang hindi nakokolekta from August sales. Yung sa August sales, anong hindi mo pa nakokolekta dyan? Yung 10% pa. So 10% ng August sales na 220,000. Kaya naman 144,000 at saka ito ay 22,000 and you are correct na ito ay 166,000. Okay. So this time, I'm giving you few more minutes or seconds to answer for number 2. Magkano ang cash receipts ng October? Okay, so cash receipts ng October or cash collections. Oops, ayan, collections. Ano-ano ba makukolekta ng October? Number 1, yung cash sales muna niya na 60,000. Number 2, yung October sales natin. Sa 200,000, ilan ang makukolekta natin? Yung 20%, right? So that would be 40,000. Sa September sales natin na 180,000, ilan ang makukolekta natin ngayong October? Remember, on the second month, it's 70. So multiply natin yung 70%. So magkano yun? 126,000. So for the month of August, meron pa ba? Yes. Dahil 3 buwan na mangongolekta. So 2070, yung 10 ang sayo. So 220,000 times 10%. So that's 22,000. Okay, ang answer natin ay 248,000. Mag-ingat sa 60,000 kasi iba baka hindi na isama yung 60,000. Okay? So it's 248. Don't forget the cash kasi that's an addition sa total collection. Except ang question, magkano ang budgeted cash receipts out of the credit sales for October? So yun na yung medyo hindi na isasama yung itong cash. Again, the budgeted cash receipts from credit sales for October. So hindi nakasama yung 60,000 doon. Be careful with that. Okay, so let's have this problem number 5. We are asked for the excess or deficiency of cash available over disbursement for July. So ang given po natin, Kishamel Corporation is preparing its cash budget for July. The budgeted beginning cash balance is 25,000. Budgeted cash receipts total 141,000 and then the budgeted cash disbursements total 139,000. The desired ending cash balance is 30,000. Ang tanong, the excess or deficiency of cash available over disbursement for July. So please let me know. Magkano ang excess or deficiency of cash available over disbursements for July? Okay, I received one answer na. Okay, so medyo magkakaiba, no? O yan, dito tayo mag-ingat ulit, ah. Ang cash available natin is computed from the cash of, teka lang. Ayaw maksama. Okay, cash beginning. Magkano cash beginning? 25,000. Tapos collections natin ay 141,000. So total ang cash available mo ay 166,000. Magkano ang disbursement natin? Total disbursement ay 139,000. Ang tinatanong po, cash available over disbursement lang. So ang difference po niyan ay 27,000. So that's the answer in number 1. Okay? Pero pag tinanong po kung magkano yung ibabaro natin or magkano talaga yung excess or deficiency natin sa cash, kasama po yung minimum cash requirement na 30,000 dyan. So therefore, ang total cash required mo ay 169,000. In fact, meron tayong deficiency na 3,000. Kung may deficiency na 3,000, that is the amount of money that we should borrow. So ang answer sa number 2 ay 3,000 pesos. Okay? So be careful po with with this kind of problem. Nakakaloko lang minsan, cash available over disbursement. You have to be very careful with that. Okay. Next problem po tayo. Ito na. So we have here a more comprehensive na problem. So this time, we have a balance sheet. O meron na tayong paghuhugutan ng mga beginning inventory natin. Okay? So we have here the balance sheet. We have here some other data about the Raquel Farm Supply. So this is a small town in the rural west. So data regarding the store operations follow. So basta ang mga kailangan po natin ay itong siyam na requirements na yan. Please take note that we are going to ignore the taxes. Okay, so we are going to compute for the expected cash collections in December. So isa-isahin na po natin, cash collections. Dito po tayo magko-compute. Pag kailangan mo ng collections ng December, anong una mong kailangan? Kailangan mo muna ng sales budget. Okay? So magkano ba ang sales natin for, ano bang dates ang binabanggit niya? We have here for November, December, and January. So 290, 310, and 210. Lagay ko lang po So November, December, January. Munti ko na makalimutan. 290,000, 310,000, and 210,000. In pesos, no? Ayan. Yan ang sales natin. Once na may sales na tayo, to come up with the collection, we need the collection policy. Balik po tayo konti. Ano po ba collection policy natin? Sabi po dito, collections are expected to be 65 in the month of sale. So 65, 33% in the following month, 33, and 2% uncollectible. So yan pala yung pattern of collection or collection policy natin. So therefore, gawin po natin yung collection budget natin. Pero ang tanong lang naman ay collection ng December. Gawin po natin yung December. Yung tanong muna ang gawin natin. Okay? So we have here collection from this month and collection from last month. So, lagay ko lang po, 65, 33, and 2%. Ito po yung collection natin. Okay. So, ilan ang makukolekta natin from this month out of itong December? So, that would be 201,500. 65% of 310,000. And from last month, 33% of 290,000, right? So, that's 95,700. Ayan. So, ang total collection natin for December ay 297,200. So, that's the answer in number 1. Okay. Since nandito na rin naman to, kumpletuhin na po natin. Pero unahin lang natin lagi kung ano yung tanong sa exam. Okay. So, from this month, 290,000 times 65,000. 65% rather. So, that's 188,500. Paano yung last month? Saan mo kukunin yung last month? Walang kwento. So, titingin tayo sa balance sheet natin sa accounts receivable. Ito po. So, ang ating collection from last month, ayan po, 77,000. Net of allowance for uncollectible accounts. Balik lang po tayo. So, that's 77,000. So, total collections for the month of November is 265,500. Ayan. How about for the month of January? So 65% ng 210,000. So that's 136,500. 33% ng 310. So that would be 102,300. So total collection for the month of January is 238,800. Kinumpleto lang natin, but the answer in number 1 is 297,200. Balik po tayo. Sulat lang po natin. 297,200. Okay. Ang tinatanong po sa number 2, the total cost of merchandise purchases. So, merchandise po tayo, tapos purchases. Balik po tayo rito. Move lang natin na konti. Ayan. So, sa purchases po natin, we have our sold plus ending minus beginning. We have our purchases for the months of November, December, and January. Pero ang hinahanap po ay for the month of December lang. So ang sold po natin, kapag peso po ang sales natin, we need the cost ratio. Angat po tayo. Ano ba ang cost ratio natin? The cost of goods sold is 80% of your sales. Hanapin lang po yung mga kailangan. Pero again, kung units po yan, yung sales budget natin ay in units, yun na mismo yung ilalagay natin dito sa sold. Nakapeso po. So multiply mo ng cost ratio because everything here in the in this table, in this budget na ginagawa natin ay naka cost or naka at cost. Kaya ang sold natin dito 80% of 90,000, that's 232,000 pesos. And then for this one, 310,000 times 80%, so that's 248,000. And for January, it's 168,000. Okay. Now, for the ending, para makuha natin yung purchases, balikan natin yung policy. Ayan. Sabi sa policy ng company, the company purchases 70% of its merchandise in the month prior to the month of sale and 30% in the month of sale. So lumalabas po na ang policy is not on the inventory but on the purchases. So medyo baliktad po ng konti yung problem na to. Pero almost lahat ng problems na na-encounter ko, nagagamit natin itong pattern na to. Okay? Itong pattern na to. Ito, there are really cases na sa halip na ganito yung magiging way of solving, sa purchases na pala diretso. Sabi niya, 70%. Ang rule natin, 70% in the month prior to the month of sale and the 30% kailan daw binibili? Balik lang po Yan. 70% in the month prior to the month of sale and 30% in the month of sale. Okay? So, ang tanong, magkano yung purchases natin ng December? So, dito po, sure tayo na 30% to ng December. Pero yung 70%, is it 70% na November or January? So, may I know kung magkano ang purchases ng December? Ulitin ko, 70% in the month prior to the month of sale at saka 30% of the in the month of sale. Ayan po, babalik ko po 70% of its merchandise in the month prior to the month of sale and 30% in the month of sale. O, balik po ako dito. So please give me the amount of the purchases on December. Okay, there are two answers that came in. So, yung iba medyo nag-hesitate na magbigay siguro ng answer. It's okay, wala namang pong bawas. So, 192,000 daw sabi. So, let's try. Sige, solve na natin. 70% in the month prior to the month of sale. Ayan, so mukhang pare-pares kayo na 192,000. So, and I think you are correct. So, 70% of 168. Kumbaga, you are anticipating na 168, bibilin mo na yan ngayon. Yung 30% of 248. So, with that, parang 70% of 168, so that's 74,400. Tapos 30% of December ng 248,000, so that's 117,600. And you are correct that it's 192,000. Okay? So magkano may purchases ng November? Magkano yung purchases ng November? So that would be 70% of 248 and 30% ng 232,000. So the answer is 243,200. Ayan, thank you Bernadette. Ayan, 243,200. Pero for January, ang hindi na natin masosolve in January. Wala na tayong masyadong data pagdating sa January natin kasi hindi natin alam kung ilan yung sales ng February. Unless sasabihin stop na ng January yung operations natin. So for the meantime, yan lang. Ang tanong lang naman sa exam ay itong 192,000. Okay? So balik tayo. Number 2. Tapos tayo 192,000. Number 3, December cash disbursement for merchandise purchases. Ano bang rule natin sa merchandise? Payment for merchandise is made in the month following the purchase. Ayan. So, magkano daw po ang disbursement? Magkano ang disbursement noong December for the purchases? Magkano po? Patingin nga po sa screen. Magkano ang disbursement natin on December related to purchases? Magkano po ang ating disbursement on December? Ano bang policy natin? Nagbabayad daw tayo lahat next month. So therefore, ang disbursement mo ng December ay yung 243,200. Correct. Correct po yung nilagay nyo. Very good. So, magkano yung disbursement ng January? That's the 192,000. Magkano yung disbursement ng November? Magkano yung babayaran ng November? Saan ko makikita? Paano yung November? Saan ko kukunin yung isa-settle, yung disbursement natin related to purchases on November? Saan makikita? Magkano? Saan? Okay, so ang tanong ko saan huhugutin? So babalikan po natin yung balance sheet natin. Yung accounts payable natin as of October 31, ito po, 239,000 because all your purchases would be paid the following month. Okay? So kaya naman po, ito ay 239,000 para makumpleto lang po natin yung ating disbursement. Ito naman yung purchases natin. O magkano po ang accounts payable as of December 31? Magkano accounts payable natin? Magkano? Correct. It's 192,000. Ayan, salamat po. Alam, nanggugulo lang ng konti. Okay? So, thank you. So, let's go back to the next question. December cash disbursement, ang sagot po natin dito ay 243,200. Okay? So, ay, may 200 ba? Yes. So, magkano po yung excess of or deficiency of cash available over disbursement for December? So, what we are trying to prepare this time is your cash budget. Okay, so let's prepare your cash budget. So, ano nga ba meron sa cash budget natin? Cash beginning. So, kailangan maikwento natin ito palagi. Cash beginning plus your collection. Ano pa? So, we have the cash available minus your disbursement, naka-itemize minus the MCR. So, we have either excess or deficiency. Di ba? Okay. So, for November, December, January. Ang tinatanong po ay ang excess of cash available, para mas tama po, excess of cash available over disbursement for December. Kaya lang, hindi natin masosolve yung December nang walang November. Okay? Kaya naman, kumpletuhin muna natin yung November. Magkano cash beginning mo? So that would come from your balance sheet ng October 31. So that would be cash na 25,000. Balik lang po, wag sana mahilo cash shift ko ng slides. So that would be 25,000. Okay? Magkano yung collection natin? Saan natin makukuha? Remember, we have our collection na computation or budget prepared dito. And it's 265,500 for November. Di ba? Ito po yung collections natin. Okay. So 265,500. Balik po ako, So that would be 265,500. So ang cash available po natin ay 290,500. Disbursement po. Ang disbursement po natin may kinalaman sa purchases at saka may kinalaman sa OPEX. Ayan. So magkano po ang disbursement natin na may kinalaman sa purchases? If you remember, binigay nyo kanina na 239,000. How about with the OPEX? Balik po tayo. May kinuwento rito. Sabi rito, other monthly expenses to be paid in cash are 21,100. Monthly depreciation is 21,000. So balik po tayo. So sa cash budget, magkano ilalagay ko sa OPEX dito? It's only the 21,100. Okay? MCR, natapos natin yung binabasa natin, walang sinabing MCR. Pero wala tayong magagawa. Nasa problem yun eh. Walang MCR. Pero sa tunay na buhay, dapat may MCR po tayo. So, ang excess natin or deficiency, or ang total requirement muna natin, i-total muna natin before we identify the excess or deficiency. Ang total requirement natin ay 260,100. Kaya naman, may excess ba or may deficiency? May excess po tayo na 30,400 for November. So ngayon, ang ating cash beginning ng December ay 30,400. Siya na yun mismo kasi wala tayong MCR. Okay? So ang collection mo ng December, balik lang po ng konti, that's 297,200. Balik po tayo. 297,200. Kaya ang cash available mo ay 327,600. Okay. So ang disbursement mo related to purchases ay 243,200. If you remember, yan po yung binayaran natin. Tapos ang monthly OPEX mo ay 21,100. So ang total requirement natin ay 264,300. So ang excess ng cash available over disbursement na 264,300 ay 63,300. And that's our answer in our problem. Ito po. 64,000. Ay, no. That's 63 rather. 63,300. Okay. O tinatanong po ngayon, net income for December. So magkano net income for December? So gawa lang po tayo ng budgeted income statement. So sales, cost of sales, or cost of goods sold, we have the GP minus the OPEX. So magkano yung operating income? Kasi ignore taxes po tayo, di ba? So for November, December, January. November lang naman po December lang naman tinatanong. Magkano sales ng December? We can go back here. So it's 310,000. Control P. Ay, pati Control P. 310,000. Okay? So ang magkano cost of goods sold? 80%, right? So 80% is 248,000. Okay. Excuse me. So ang gross profit ay 62,000. Ayan. So magkano yung OPEX natin? Remember, may depreciation expense pa. So magkano ang net income natin dito? Do you still remember magkano yung ano natin, yung depreciation expense? Ang DE natin ay 21,000 every month. Okay. So please let me know magkano net income ng December. Magkano kaya ang net income natin in December? Okay, please put that in our chat box. Ayusin ko lang ng ating solution. Yan, itemize natin yung mga OPEX. Okay. So we have the 21,100 na cash OPEX. We have the 21,000. So magkano ang operating income po natin? Please don't forget your bad debts expense. Okay? Yun, 13,700 kasi may bad debts expense tayo. Ilang percent? 2% po yung bad debts expense natin. Okay? So this is our cash OPEX. Cash na mga OPEX. Ito yung ating non-cash, yung depreciation expense. Ang bad debts expense natin ay magkano po? 2%. So that's 6,200. Kaya naman ang answer ay 13,700. Ayan. Okay, so this time, ilagay lang natin yung answer natin. It's 13,700. Oy, konti na lang. 13,700. Tinatanong po, magkano daw po yung yung cash balance at the end of December? Parang kamukha na po na 63,300, di ba? Ito po, oh, kasi wala naman tayong MCR. So yung excess niya, yan mismo yung ating cash balance, right? Ayan. So ngayon po, tinatanong yung accounts receivable at the end of December. Magkano accounts receivable at the end of December? Pag bumalik ka sa solution mo dito, nasan dito? Magkano accounts receivable at December? Magkano accounts receivable ng December? Actually, nakaharap na sa atin, no? I just need you to pinpoint magkano. Accounts receivable po Okay. It's 102,300, correct. So 102,300, ito pong nakolekta natin ng January. Yung 33% ng 310. So correct. So 100 to 300. Magkano yung accounts payable at the end of December? Parang tinanong natin to kanina. Balikan po natin. Accounts payable at the end of December, the entire purchases. Ito po yung purchases natin, right? The entire purchases would be the accounts payable at the end of December because all the purchases of merchandise are paid the following month. So it's 192,000. Okay? So that's 192,000. So kaya pag ganito kabang problem, lahat na ng pinerform na natin. So mga nakasingit-singit na yung sagot sa ibang tanong natin dito. Ang last na lang, magkano retained earnings ng December at the end of December. Bigay ko na retained earnings ng October. Ayan po. 311,400. Balik po tayo sa dulo for the sake of computation of retained earnings. So 311,400. Tama ba? 311,400. Tama ba? Alala ko. Balikan ko nga. Yeah, 311,400. Ngayon, tinatanong, magkano retained earnings mo as of December 31? So, ano ba nakaka-apekto sa retained earnings? Kapag may income, plus. Pag may loss, minus. Pag may dividends, minus. So, magkano ang retained earnings natin ng December 21? So, ito 10/31. Ang tinatanong ay retained earnings as of 12/31. So, magkano po? Meron nga lang tayong kulang na data dito, no? Mukhang kailangan muna natin isolve yung iba pang data. But I'm giving you enough time to solve for it. Okay. So, wala kasi sa screen yung ibang data pero let's try. 235,300. So, let's try to solve. Okay. So, kailangan muna natin malaman magkano ba yung income natin on November. So, ang sales po natin ng November ay pag binalikan po natin 290,000. Ang COGS natin ay 80% which is 232,000. So ang gross profit natin ay 58,000. Ang OPEX natin same lang naman. So oops, nawawala yung cursor. Ayan, 21,100 na cash OPEX. Depreciation na expense na 21,000. Pero yung bad debts natin ay 2% ng 290,000 which is 5,800. Okay. So ang operating income natin ng November is ignoring the income taxes po so 10,100. Kaya naman yung income mo, OI mo ng November at saka operating income mo ng December to 13,700, yan yung addition natin sa ating retained earnings which is 23,800. Kaya naman ang answer po natin ay 335,200. That would be the retained earnings on December 31. Okay. So, just to complete, na-slide lang ng konti ng 100 pesos si Aspen J. Santos. Okay, so 335,200. So, if we go back, sulat lang po natin final answer here. It's 335,200. Ayan na po yung answers natin sa ating comprehensive na example on master budget. Okay. So, question so far, ilagay lang po sa chat box. Ang gusto ko na lang siguro sabihin at this point, yung ating limitations sa budgeting. Okay? There are limitations of course. So, yung ating budget, the plan itself, as well as the figures therein are merely estimates. Kaya nga po kapag may mga actual data, mas nagpe-prevail po yung mga actual data natin. So we can expect na yung mga figures na yon may not happen exactly as we planned yung mga activities na yon. Okay? And also we have a budgetary system requires the cooperation and participation of all members of the organization. Kapag may pumalpak na isang department, every data or everything or every data in the budget will be affected. Remember, nung gumagawa tayo ng budgeted income statement, lahat po ng mga ng mga ibang budgets, yung mga schedule na yon, hinuhugot lang natin doon yung data. Eh kung merong hindi nakasunod doon sa budget na yon, edi affected na po yung ibang budget. For example, the purchases budget would be a signal to purchasing department kung ilan yung dapat nila i-purchase. Tapos yung policy natin on disbursement, applying the policy dun sa purchases na ginawa ng purchasing department, si accounting o kung sino man yung nagpa-process ng payment, they should ensure also that they would pay as planned. Tapos yung sales budget, dapat they should exert effort also na ma-meet talaga yung target na yon. But at the end of the day, tulad nga na sabi natin, we will just make sure na lahat ng members ng organization ay nagko-cooperate at nagpa-participate para mangyari yon. Pero syempre, hindi po natin may expect nga na lahat ng yon ay mangyayari exactly as we wanted those data to be. Okay? So budget restricts their investments and limits their decision making power. So lahat ng galaw ng mga managers, lahat ng galaw ng mga execom ay within the budget. So sometimes nung restriction sa budget na yon ang nakakapigil din minsan sa yung parang gusto mong galingan ng todo pero you really have to exert effort up to that budget lang. Okay? So, yung iba siguro para nagsi-shell out ng pera nila pero that is not really a good sign. So, medyo may konting restrictions lang pagdating doon nga sa decision making power. You can only decide up to that limit lang. And time consuming nga po and too costly for some organizations. Sobrang tagal gawin, especially if you choose the participative na approach. Ayun. So, at the end of the day, kapag wala din naman budget ang company, ang hirap din naman po na walang direksyon. So dapat po may budget na nag-guide at least. Hindi man perfectly masunod, pero basta nag-guide yung organization ng budget or ng plano, may plano ang organization, at least may lahat ng galaw ng tao, ng buong organization, iisa lang, which is according to the plan or budget. Okay, so with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's session. And I hope you have learned something from our discussion on financial planning and budgets. Okay, so have a great day.
Po, sir.